The last list said they had 12 pounds of fish hooks, but those weren't for the Indians. So what do you think them guys were going to do for 2 years? With 12 pounds of fishing line and fishing hooks. They were going to fish. Right? But they hunted a lot too. There's records of all that. They killed a couple thousand animals over that 2 years. And there's records of that. Iron combs, pocket mirrors, 288 thimbles, 3 pounds of beads, 6 bunches of large red garnet beads, 10 bunches of yellow beads, trade beads, several yards of trade cloth, red and blue, and powdered vermilion. But again, yeah, there's some fanciful stuff on here. There's some trade beads, there's some vermilion, there's some ooh-ah stuff, mirrors. But look at the majority of that stuff, what it is. It is tools to create something else. Tools to create sustainability. And it's important to understand that. John Gould, Civil War soldier, wrote a book, How to Camp, in 1877. Now we have a veteran Civil War soldier writing a survival manual, basically, in 1877. Here are some of the things he says. A haversack is almost indispensable in pedestrian tours. Even if you have your bag gauged in a wagon, it is best to wear one or some sort of small bag furnished with shoulder straps so that you can carry your lunch, writing materials, guidebooks, and such as small articles that you constantly need. Guidebooks in 1877? Who'd have thought? Right? Let's go bird watching in 1877. Who'd have thought that in this room? Not me. Okay. Wool blankets. Big deal here. Next in, oh my gosh. Next in the order of necessity is the woolen blanket. A good stout one, rather than a light or flimsy one that you may think of taking. Think back. Now we're talking 1877. A minute ago we were talking 1768. Wool blankets? Wool blankets. Okay? Wool blanket was the king. Period. Everybody wanted wool blankets. Ochi couldn't have a wool blanket, so he had a grass shawl. That was his microclimate. But as soon as match coats and woolen blankets were available, everybody wanted them. For a reason. Okay, here's his list on how to camp from 1877. And this rubber blanket idea comes about in this book, but it's followed through with guys like Horace Kephart and also a little bit in Nesbitt's book as well. Probably just a piece of rubber sheeting of some kind, very similar to what we would look at as a rubber poncho nowadays. Okay. A rubber blanket. A stout woolen blanket with lining, a knapsack or haversack and canteen, drawers, spare shirt, socks, collars, half a shelter tent and ropes, toilet articles, blah, 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 small wares, food for one day. So what's this guy got?
Underqueer.
Pretty much, he's got the 5 C's. He's got shelter, he's got a way to start a fire, he's got a belt knife, he's got cover, he's got a container. And he's ready to go.
I think the rubber blanket's the undersheet.
1821, George Washington Sears died 1890. Sports writer for Forest and Stream magazine in the 1880s. Early conservationists and stories appearing under the pen name Nesbitt popularized self-guiding canoe tours and trips, camping trips in the Adirondack Lakes and open lightweight solo canoes, and what is currently today called ultralight camping. Nesbitt was the original guy who created ultralight camping, but that was really probably more than anything else a circumstance, because he weighed 113 pounds and he was only 5'2". I didn't carry much if I'm a midget. Okay, and I only weighed 113 pounds. So everything that he had was lightweight so that he could carry it over distance. But it created a lot of the ultralight mentality that we have even to this day for types of equipment. Okay, so now we're into the 1800s again, just like we were with the guy who wrote in 1877. His ditty bag was 4 inches by 6 inches in size, contained a dozen books, 4 lines 6 yards long, 3 darning needles, a few common needles, buttons, sewing silk thread, balls yarn, sticking salve, shoemaker's wax, beeswax sinkers, a file, sharpening hooks, a vial of fly medicine, and a vial of painkiller, 2 or 3 gangs of hooks on brass wire snell, waterproof matches in a safe, strings, a compass, bits of linen, scarlet flannel for catching frogs, copper tacks, and other light duffel. If you look through the list of things that Nesbitt carried, he pretty much carried the 10 C's. That's pretty much what the guy carried. His cooking gear was state-of-the-art at the time. but it really was not any more state-of-the-art than they had in colonial times. Because in colonial times they had nesting pots. They had pots they traded with the Indians that nested inside of each other. Made of copper, made of tin, made of brass. His set was made of tin, and it was a nesting set of 2 kettles that he carried most of the time that were 1 quart each. And you'll see when we get into Mr. Kephart, his kit was very similar to the same. Nesbitt fancied fishing very much, and fishing equipment that steers used seemed varied would be expected from any fisherman. As an example, one of the rods he lists as weight of 5 ounces, and in several places he speaks of a muzzle-loading rifle as well. So now we've got Nesbitt, who is also hunting and fishing and carrying that lightweight stuff and carrying the 10 Cs, because he's tramping through the wilderness and he doesn't know when he's in his canoe if he's going to be gone a day, 2 days, 2 weeks. He gets lost, he's gone for a month. He's got to have sustainability. How does he obtain it? The same way they did 100 years before. Duluth pack. And the only reason I'm going to talk about this real quick is not because Duluth pack's here, not because I love Duluth pack, but because it's important for the next slide. The holy grail of the pack world, French-Canadian Camille Poirier, arrived in Duluth, Minnesota in 1870, set up a leatherworking shop, and soon after designed this Poirier pack sack, featuring newfangled strap design, leather-based supports, and tumpline strap, which goes around your forehead in order to lessen the weight and your back. Poirier patented his design in 1882, and this is kind of funny. He patented his design, but he copied that design from 100 years prior. Okay? Native Americans used tumplines forever. Okay? They had new invented haversacks or haversacks with pack straps on them even in colonial times. So he really didn't reinvent anything. He just copyrighted something else that was already there. But to this day, you know, Duluth is one of the premier pack companies of the world, and this is from 1870. So that company has lasted that long for a reason. The packs are good, the packs are durable, the packs are what you need for sustainability. What is a pack?
Container.
It's a container, right? Book of Camping, 1917. Now we're going beyond George Washington Sears a little bit. Written by Hyatt Verrill. And in his book, in the contents, you see very clearly, trapping for food, living off the land, fishing, curing and tanning hides, moccasin making, camp-made utensils, first aid, poisons, insect bites, accidents and drowning, blah, blah, blah. This is a book of camping, and this guy's talking about tanning hides, trapping animals, okay? He's talking sustainability in a camping book. These guys knew where it was at. They weren't stupid. We can learn throughout history from these guys that all of them were exactly the same mindset. They just improved their gear as times allowed. Horace Kephart, 1862 to 1931, an American travel writer and librarian, best known for the author of Our Southern Highlanders, about his life in the Smoky Mountains of West North Carolina, as well as camping and woodcraft, published in 1917. The picture of old Horace in his cabin there, a couple guns on the wall, shooting bag, pistol, simple bed, happy camper. Wearing boots, notice, just saying. Okay, Kephart, Duluth pack sack. He calls that out directly in his book. That's why we talked about Duluth. A 7x9 shelter cloth, waterproof. I would assume that to mean oilcloth. Mosquito net, U.S. blanket, summer weight. This is his summer pack out kit. So he's saying that a light blanket, a light wool blanket is okay in the summertime. You're all right with that. A browse bag and a pillow bag. This browse bag idea, again, this is nothing new.